The Missouri Tigers suffered a 41-10 blowout, embarrassing, whatever adjective you want to use, on the road at Texas A&M. Their first road game of the season goes terribly. The factor of Kyle Field definitely played into this, but also Mizzou's execution, all of this was nowhere to be seen. I'm Joey Van Zummeren, one of the football reporters here at Missouri on SI, and joined by Michael Sampson as always. Michael, your initial thoughts from this loss?
Yeah, I mean, I really think it was done. The game was done after that touchdown at the beginning of the third quarter from Le'Veon Moss. It was 75 yards, first play of the game. Couldn't have been more wide open. I just rewatched it 10 minutes ago. He made Marvin Burks look silly, and that was the last guy to beat, and it was that simple. And I think that play, if you go back and watch it, you see Burks just fall to the ground. It was kind of perfect, almost encapsulation of the game. And I mean, it's a combination of A&M executing very well offensively and defensively, and Missouri executing very poorly.
Right.
I don't know which one stands out more than the other yet. It's a good mix of both, and we'll have to go back and watch and have more for you on that eventually. But it was poor execution on one side and near perfect execution on the other, and it's very evident, who did what and why the Aggies walked away with the victory today. Yeah,
starting with the offense side of things for Mizzou and talking about the crowd at Kyle Field and the impact that had. I think Brady Cook is an easier transition from that, and obviously Brady Cook, I was going to say made himself a target, but I don't think he was trying to insult Kyle Field at all with his comment there, but I completely understand why they used that as bulletin board material. They made it Jumbotron material by showing his quote in the fourth quarter there. But with Brady Cook's performance in this one, his performances are getting more and more troubling, and I can think you can argue as well that the offense as a whole is not helping him. The offensive line was pretty terrible in this one. Nick Sorten and the rest of that Texas A&M defensive line was just as powerful as advertised, if not more, and was an incredible problem for this offensive line to handle, really stopped the momentum, and that was a problem from the jump on the very first drive for Missouri on everything they were trying to do. Brady Cook was off schedule so often, was forced to try to scramble for some things on third down that just weren't there. But Brady Cook, his performance overall, obviously the pressure played into it. However, again, the same things that it keeps on feeling every week we're saying, okay, eventually he's going to get it figured out. I go into this game and I'm thinking this is the game, just like Kansas State last year, where Brady struggles for the first two games of the season, and then he is fully arrived. I fully thought, especially on the very first play, Brady goes out there, 27-yard pass to Luther Burden, finally a chunk play, explosive pass if you want to call it that. And I thought this was it. The struggles were going to be behind him, but he still, no matter the pressure, still deep throws to receivers, was overthrowing them quite a few times. Even the 75-yard touchdown that Luther Burden had that got called back was a little off of a throw. One that Theo Weiss had as well, a little off of a throw, even though he caught it. So, part of it, the wide receivers do have to do a better job at adjusting to his passes. Mookie Cooper had 2 drops today. So, Brett Norfleet had that drop. It was a low pass too. But this offense is really going to have to work around Brady Cook and see what the issue is. I don't know what's going on with him. We've talked so many times that we've seen he can play better last year, and it's just not happening this year. Michael, what are your thoughts on Brady in this offense?
I agree. I can't really pinpoint what's going on either. I obviously he was not anywhere near perfect today, and I personally would attribute most of that to the performance from the offensive line. It was kind of hard to think a time where he could drop back and cleanly get a pass off. He was getting hit or close to hit or having to escape the pocket. It seemed like every throw, and he threw 31 passes.
Right.
So that was a good majority of them, over probably 50-60%, where he was getting pressured. And again, it's one of those things. Credit to the A&M defensive line. Obviously, Nick Scourton, Shamar Turner, Shamar Stewart, Albert Regis. They were as advertised. They were excellent today. But the Missouri offensive line did not do their job. They did not do their job at all. And again, some of the stats might be a little bit negatively inflated. Like, there were a couple drops. He made, honestly, in my opinion, a couple impressive throws on the run. There was a couple of those where he was getting chased around in circles, and I was thoroughly impressed. And obviously, nothing came from them. But there was Luther. It was the two Mookie Cooper drops.
Right.
Both probably, you can argue, should have been receptions, and one even a touchdown. So it's not a statistical thing, though. You can tell he's not the same quarterback that he was that he was last year. And I don't know if it's a confidence issue or what the problem seems to be, but I mean, things aren't getting any easier. I guess maybe next week, but past next week, things aren't getting any easier,
right.
And that's again something that's really gonna have to get fixed. And then for the offense as a whole, maybe a little bit of a segue. The offense as a whole, there was just no rhythm at all.
Right.
It was out of sync. They never established the run. I mean, I don't know how many carries Nate Noel had. Couldn't have been more than 10.
Mm-hmm.
Marcus Carroll got in there a little bit, and he had a couple decent runs, but again, there was just no comfortability, running the ball. Brady Cook had to run a lot and got sacked, I believe, 6 times.
Yep.
And he had a couple decent runs, but a couple that didn't get him anywhere, or he lost yardage. There was just no rhythm, and the number of missed passes, I think he was 13 to 31 today. The number of missed passes is really what contributes to that. And when you get so far down early in the game,
yep.
Obviously you quite literally have to throw your way back into the game, and you kind of have to eliminate efficiency and just say we're going to take shots down the field and try to find our guys deep down the field, which they tried and failed. So I mean, right. The rhythm offensively was not there at all.
Yeah, as far as what you mentioned on a lot of that is the issues. I mean, the slow start is really want to talk about, because with that, the slow start for this offensive team as a whole, and everything else with this team that we had been seeing bubbling up over these past few weeks since Boston College, they became, they started off as a scab, and Texas A&M just kept on picking and picking until those became massive wounds for this team. The slow start, we kept on saying, look, if Mizzou continues to play like this in the first quarter, going scoreless in the first quarter against Vanderbilt, Boston College, now Texas A&M, it's gonna come to bite them, and it obviously did today against Texas A&M. And it applied to the defense today as well. Applied to the defense against Vanderbilt, and Boston College as well. Both sides of the ball having slow starts in each of the past 3 games. I don't know what the remedy is to that, but especially in this situation, when you go down as quickly and as early as they did today, and you have this crowd here. The crowd was already a factor early on in this game, but the fact that Mizzou was down 17-0, and then they're facing another 3rd down, and they're playing Mo Bamba, and it was nauseating even from the press box to imagine having focus in that moment down on the field. So played a big part in it, and I think that's definitely one of Mizzou's biggest issues at the moment. That the penalties obviously came up again today. Explosive passes we could talk about for hours on why they need to get that fixed up. But these issues that Mizzou has been having for all season now are really starting to become big problems. Onto the defensive side of things here. Not a great showing from them either, to put it lightly, and the weakest we've seen this defense. They don't look great against Vanderbilt either, but they came up, made the stops when they needed to. And this game against Texas A&M, especially in the red zone, they just kept on getting paper gutted apart, really. Connor Wigeman did a great job starting over Marcel Reed unexpectedly. The 3 running backs for Texas A&M also had a fantastic day. Le'Veon Moss in particular, like Michael mentioned earlier, he ended the game with that touchdown out of the half. And some amazing catches by Texas A&M wide receivers, specifically Noah Taylor, had quite a few where it's like, man, I don't even know what Mizzou is supposed to do in that moment. Secondary not having a great day. Linebackers not having a great day. Hardly any pressure on Connor Wigeman at all either. So as Eli Drinkwitz put, this defense didn't do much of anything well today. Michael, your thoughts on this unit?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm going to eat my words here. I believe with our podcast episode this previous week, I said I was not too worried about the A&M receiving core, and they made some incredible plays.
Mm-hmm.
Noah Thomas had that 29-yard catch where his after the catch ability was insane. He's a 6'6" receiver. That's
mm-hmm.
not normal. Obviously, there was that 40-yard bomb to Ja'Day Walker, which was an incredible deep ball catch that, I mean, can go 50-50, and they were just better today. We can throw out names on the Missouri side of the ball in the secondary. Obviously, Toriano Pride did not have his best day. Defensively, what I personally found the biggest issue to be was the lack of pressure against Wiegman. I have a rule of thumb for any college football game, really, not just Missouri related, if you're not going to pressure the quarterback, there's just no way. There's no way you're going to win. He's whatever quarterback can have all the time in the world to throw the ball and the holes to escape. And again, that really goes back to A&M's offensive line, which I don't think we've given them enough credit.
Right.
They were truly incredible, and minus a few penalties, they were near perfect. And Weigman really had all the time in the world to throw the ball or run. He finished with 33 rushing yards, I believe, which I don't know off the top of my head how good of a runner he normally is, but that's a good performance and very clutch runs too. He had a 17-yard run on third down, which should be unacceptable, right? But I mean, Weigman really had all the time in the world to throw, and their receivers just this is something we've talked about. They sat in the zone defense and found the holes and sat down and did their thing afterwards. So just a very, very negative performance really from the defense. It's I honestly can't think of someone who really stood out in a positive manner. Which
there was people that stood out for sure.
Yes, yeah. Which is unfortunate. You don't want to walk into a hostile road environment like this and just not show up. And unfortunately, that's what happened.
Yeah, and looking at this defense as a whole, I don't know where they go from here. They've had 2 good showings, 3 good showings. They played well against Boston College still, but not sure how would you feel about this defense and this team as a whole. And really leads us to our last point here. This game was supposed to be where we found out what Mizzou was really made of. And I think we did.
Yeah.
If we're being honest. So they got a lot to work on, obviously. And, I'm not saying that they're not going to be able to improve from this. I think this was not the truest showing. I don't think they're going to get blown out by 30 points for the rest of the season, for the rest of their SEC schedule. But we learned some things about this Mizzou Tigers team. And looking ahead to what this means for the future, where Mizzou goes from here, it's interesting because, like I said, going into this game, it's going to be a statement win where we found out what Mizzou was made of, and they came out completely flat. And as I wrote earlier today, suffering a close competitive loss against Texas A&M, you would have been fine. I mean, it would have sucked to have a loss that early on the season, especially when you look ahead to Alabama, Oklahoma later on the schedule. But especially considering the rest of the SEC where they're at right now, Mizzou really could have taken a jump there. But the fact that it was an absolutely embarrassing loss really feels harmful to Mizzou's postseason hopes. And now really they're going to have a lot of catching up to do before they head to Alabama on October 26th. They got UMass and Auburn before then. And obviously Alabama's not looking too good in Nashville right now. But Michael, where do you think this Mizzou team goes from here?
I mean, I wish I had the answer to that question. We talk about media hype and things like that somewhat frequently here. And if you're a Missouri fan, you're talking about expectations for the season. I mean, that's definitely not a positive outlook in that aspect at all. But just to come out and have no answers, it seemed like it was every issue and small little tweak that we think the team needed. It felt like that on an amplified scale. It seemed like every issue that they've had this year, the penalties, Brady Cook, that sort of thing, it just seemed like it was 10 times worse today. And why that was, I don't know.
Coming off a bye week, too.
It was coming off a bye week, which we probably, I mean, it's embarrassing, honestly, to have, 2 weeks of preparation and to come out like that. So, yeah, I mean, it's if you're a fan, you're frustrated and you probably don't know what to think. Mm-hmm. But if for being honest, the word I'd like to use is exposed, right? It seemed this might not be the true colors of this Missouri team, but it doesn't look good at all, and that's what I would say. I mean, they got exposed today, and their weaknesses again were amplified on not only a huge scale but a national scale. Like, I think this is how people are going to view the Missouri Tigers now, unless they follow it up with. I mean, they should beat UMass, but follow it up with a big win on homecoming week. So
absolutely. So they'll take on UMass this week. I mean, it becomes even more of a problem. I know Eli Drinkwitz got in trouble a few years ago. It's created a beef with Jeff Hafley, the Boston College coach, by saying he didn't want to travel to BC, an area where they're not recruiting. They're not recruiting UMass either, Massachusetts area. And now it's going to become even more an issue. I'm sure they would love to have another day of practice on Friday. I'm not sure what the travel schedule is going to look like this week. I know they practice on Friday morning before traveling to Texas A&M this week. But still, to lose that extra time for preparation and comfortability at home to go play UMass after you're coming off a really tough performance, it's not ideal. So we'll see where this Mizzou team goes from here. We'll have all the coverage of it the rest of their season over at Mizzou on SI. Thank you for tuning in for this video.